Today on Searching for History, we're in Lutherstadt Wittenberg, Germany.
On this episode, we will visit two historic churches, the Church of All Saints, where Martin Luther nailed his 95 Theses to the door, and the town church of St. Mary, where Martin Luther preached over 2,000 sermons. We will also take a peek into the courtyard where Lucas Cranach the Elder's workshop was located, and spend a little time just walking the streets of Wittenberg. Wittenberg, officially known as Lutherstadt Wittenberg, is located in the German state of Saxony-Anhalt, situated on the River Elbe, about 60 miles southwest of Berlin. Made famous for its connection with Martin Luther, Wittenberg is his adopted hometown and the birthplace of the Protestant Reformation. They say Lutherans don't have saints, but after a visit to Wittenberg, I think they have at least one. This is the Church of All Saints, and is the site where Martin Luther nailed his 95 Theses to the church door. The church was severely damaged in 1760 during the 7 Years' War. The original door no longer exists. In the late 1800s, the church was rebuilt in the neo-Gothic style, and the door was rebuilt in bronze with the 95 Theses engraved upon it. Above the door is an image of the crucified Christ with Martin Luther on the left and his fellow reformer Philip Melanchthon on the right. On October 31st, 1517, Martin Luther nailed a handwritten copy of his 95 Theses to the wooden door. The 95 Theses contained arguments about ending the practice of indulgences and other forms of corruption that permeated the Catholic Church at that time. This moment of nailing the 95 Theses to the door brought about the Reformation and was a turning point in European history. The coats of arms on the upper stained glass windows represent German cities that became Protestant during the Reformation.
I don't think I expected it to be this decorated.
Yeah, that's my comment. If anyone ever tells me a Lutheran church is supposed to be plain, it's not true.
No, this is really pretty.
It's like, I don't think they've been to Wittenberg.
I want my ceiling to be like that ceiling.
Yeah, that's really impressive ceiling.
This 1891 memorial is dedicated to the medieval princes of Anhalt from the House Ascania, who are buried inside the church. The inscription on the side honors Prussian King and German Kaiser Wilhelm II, who encouraged the renovation of the church.
So what do you think?
This is the coolest Lutheran church I've ever been in.
It's pretty cool.
I love all the heraldic symbolism on the sides. That's really cool.
The coats of arms on the railing represent larger principalities that adopted Protestantism. In the middle of the nave, to the right, in front of the pulpit, you will see a raised plaque marking the grave of Martin Luther. In the middle of the nave on the left side, there is a raised plaque marking the grave of Luther's fellow reformer, Philip Melanchthon. In front of the high altar are tomb markers for the prince-electors of Saxony, Frederick the Wise and his successor, his younger brother, John the Steadfast, who provided support for the Protestant reformers. On either side of these markers are large plaques and statues that depict the two brothers. We are now walking up the Schlossstrasse towards the Marktplatz. If you notice here on the left is a small canal. You see these in a few German cities. Freiburg comes to mind. This canal originally brought drinking water into town and sewage out of town. The building surrounding this courtyard was the residence of the famous German Renaissance painter and printmaker Lucas Cranach the Elder. Cranach was the official court painter for the electors of Saxony and was the only painter who had permission to do portraits of Martin Luther and his family. He is known for his portraits of German princes and leaders of the Protestant Reformation. Cranach had a large workshop here. Lucas Cranach the Younger continued his father's work for decades after his death. So it's this place here? Lucas Cranach the Younger and Lucas Cranach der Alter.
It's an art studio. There's a small print shop.
We are approaching the Marktplatz, or Market Square. When Martin Luther lived here in the 16th century, this square was multi-purpose: a market, a tournament ground, and used for executions. The large white building on the left that Luther would recognize is the town hall, built in the Renaissance style.
That's interesting.
See a pop-up beer fest here.
When we came here before, there was like a market all along this square.
This is a 19th century statue of Martin Luther. Here is a 19th century statue of Philip Melanchthon. To the right of the town hall, you see pastel-colored buildings, shops with residences above. Behind these buildings, the church in the background is the town and parish church of St. Mary.
So the entrance is on the side.
Mm-hmm.
The town church of St. Mary dates to the 12th century.
See the sundial?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's a baptistry or what that is.
I think that's the baptistry. Could be a tomb. But I think it's the baptistry.
At the back corner of the church, below the roofline, is a relief of a pig called the Judensau, or Jewish sow. This is anti-Semitic propaganda from the medieval period. Its purpose was to intimidate Jews who lived in the vicinity. If you look closely, you can see a pig with Jewish children nursing from it and a rabbi staring at its butt. Unfortunately, anti-Semitism existed in the medieval period in Germany and throughout Europe. More recently, when the church underwent restoration, it was decided to keep this imagery as a reminder of a darker history. The first Protestant church service was held here on Christmas Day in 1521. This was Martin Luther's home church for most of his life. This is where he was married, his children were baptized, and where he preached many sermons. This is the Reformation altarpiece by Lucas Cranach the Elder and the Younger. It is the centerpiece of the church and was completed in 1547, the year after Martin Luther died. The bottom panel, the predella, shows Martin Luther preaching from a pulpit, one hand on the Bible and the other pointing to Christ. The left wing panel shows Philip Melanchthon baptizing a baby. On the right panel, Johannes Bugenhagen, another Protestant reformer, is hearing a confession. The central panel features the Last Supper, but with Protestant reformers instead of the apostles sitting around a round table with Christ. Almost all of these works we're showing you came from the Cranach workshop. Now we're looking at the backside of the Reformation altarpiece. It is assumed that the depictions on the back of the wings of the altarpiece, the story of the bronze serpent on the right and the story of the binding of Isaac on the left, used to stand above the predella and would have been seen from the front when the altarpiece was closed. The central panel shows the triumphant Christ above an image of the redeemed and the damned. The lower panel appears as though it has been defaced. Students of theology came here and scratched their names or initials into the painting. On the left, in the river of knowledge, if they had done well in school, or on the right, in hell, if they had failed school. Here you see another painting from the Cranach workshop. This work by Lucas Cranach the Younger dates to circa 1573 or 1574 and is titled The Vineyard of the Lord. The painting shows the biblical story of the workers in the vineyard, but it is transported to the time of the Reformation. On the bottom left, the Pope in golden robes with his followers behind him, believing they have worked longer for the Lord than others, the Pope extends his hand, demanding higher wages from Christ. The scene above the Pope shows the devastation of the vineyard by the Pope's monks and clergy, destroying the reformers' hard work. On the right, the Protestant reformers tend to the garden of the Lord. Notice Martin Luther raking and the other reformers, Philip Melanchthon, Johannes Bugenhagen, and Paul Eber, also tending to the garden. In the bottom right, this is Paul Eber's family, kneeling and praying and not demanding any payment. This baptismal font, made from cast brass, was crafted by Hermann Vischer the Older and dates to 1457. The outside of the octagonal basin is decorated with 8 figures of apostles. The apostles Peter, Paul, John, and Andrew are depicted on 4 corner pillars. This building here originally was a monastery. Martin Luther lived here first as a monk and then later after he married his wife, Katharina von Bora. Walk through this passageway to see the inner courtyard and a turreted building where Luther and his wife once lived. The building was a wedding gift from a prince elector of Saxony and a benefactor of Luther's. Well, this is the end of our video on Wittenberg, Germany.
Thanks for watching the video, and we'll see you next time on Searching for History. Don't forget to like, share, comment on this video, and please subscribe to this channel.